this country still sees derailments in this country on a daily basis. And I think a lot of people didn't realize that that was the case. So now that there is greater public awareness of something we have been working on since this department was created, I think there's a real moment with bipartisan political will to do more. And Mr. Buttigieg, how would that specifically address situations like the one in East Palestine, Ohio, where residents are still complaining about smelling noxious smells in the air and questioning whether or not their water is safe? Well, the biggest thing that's helping the residents on a day-to-day basis right now is the work of the EPA. The EPA is holding Norfolk Southern accountable for the costs of the cleanup and making sure that there is testing of air, of soil, and of water. But here on the transportation side, we're working to make sure that we are doing more that could help prevent these kinds of things from happening in the future. Now, that particular derailment is still under investigation. I'm not going to get ahead of the NTSB on that. But some things we already know include the fact that more use of a technology called a wayside defect detector. This is basically a piece of equipment that sits on the side of the railroad track and can tell if a wheel is overheating, could and should be used more widely. We've already put out safety advisories on this to the railroad sector, but again, with help from legislation, could be in a position to do more. But Mr. Secretary, to be clear, you and your team and the Biden administration have not forgotten about the people in East Palestine, Ohio, correct? You know, whenever I check in with people who I got to know in East Palestine, I hear two things from them. One, on one hand, they don't want to be defined by this. They're seeking to enjoy their summer, build up their community, make sure people know why they're proud of their community. On the other hand, they want to make sure they're not forgotten and that they have support not just this year, but as many years as it takes as they seek to get back to normal and make sure that they're safe. That commitment is there from this administration. This administration was on the ground within hours of the derailment and will not be walking away from this community in the years or the decades to come for as long as they need support. Mr. Secretary, this helped to foreshadow the situation with rail crossings in many small towns across America and their impact. These trains can sometimes cross for hours at a time, a major inconvenience, even stopping some emergency vehicles from moving through the area. Now, the Department of Transportation put aside $570 million for 60 projects in 32 states, but there seems to be thousands of blocked crossing complaints. How did the Transportation Department decide who got the money and for which projects? So in small communities, and not only in small communities, this is a consistent headache. It is a quality of life issue. It's even a safety issue if you got an ambulance or a fire truck that is stuck at a crossing. And one thing that has increased in recent years is these freight railroad companies turning to longer and longer trains. They can be 2 miles, even 3 miles or longer, which means more time stuck waiting at these crossings. Now, this problem's been around for a long time, but for the first time under President Biden's infrastructure law, we have specific funding to address the worst of these railroad crossings and the ones where communities have brought forward a plan to deal with them. Now, again, there are hundreds of thousands of these crossings around the country, so our focus has to be on the ones where there would be the biggest improvement by either getting rid of it completely with an overpass or an underpass or making some kind of change in the safety of that crossing. And we kicked off the program announcements. I was in Grand Forks, North Dakota, where the leaders and community members there told me they'd been trying to get rid of that railroad crossing since 1991. We're finally helping them do it with about $40 million. One of the big obstacles has been funding. We have more funding than we used to, but we're also calling on the railroads who ultimately own these railroad right-of-ways most of the time to do their part. And there have been some good public-private partnerships to get more done. We select those projects based on the applications that come in. Again, there's never been dedicated funding for this until now. Mr. Buttigieg, you also talked about the infrastructure bill a little bit ago. The American Society of Civil Engineers gave the USA a C- infrastructure grade just 2 years ago. What grade would you give our infrastructure now? Well, the good news is we are improving. The tough thing is it's going to take a while to make up for that backlog. Look, we didn't get to that C- level overnight. It's the result of, I would argue, about 40 years of underinvesting in U.S. infrastructure. But for the first time in a long time, it's getting better, not worse, because President Biden's infrastructure legislation is providing the most funding that we've had since before I was born to improve roads and bridges, rail and transit, airports and ports, ferry systems, everything people need to get to where they're going.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.